Hey guys, welcome back to New England Next Gen. We're going to be having a guest on, and his name is Mark Conrad, and I'm going to be having him speak about the pro-life movement. So, without further ado, here's Mark
Well,
Conrad.
Sharon, thank you so much for asking me to come on with you. I'm very excited about the work you're doing, and so I'm happy. So my role in the pro-life movement is in something called pregnancy resource centers. Unfortunately, you hear a lot of people saying that those of us who are pro-life really don't care about the baby after they're born, and absolutely not true. We have an entire movement of pregnancy resource centers all over the country and internationally where we care for a woman before, during, and after her pregnancy. So when I got involved with this, I was asked back in 2004 to open up a pregnancy resource center. It took me a couple of years. I was able to open that, and then the person who was running that organization asked me to take over for them as president and CEO of an organization that then was called A Woman's Concern. And we had 6 pregnancy resource centers along the eastern seaboard of Massachusetts. And then I started a coalition of pregnancy resource centers all across New England that was called the New England Pregnancy Resource Center Coalition. And that's where we worked with 35 pregnancy resource centers to help strengthen them so they could help her in that moment.
That's a lot of centers. So what does pro-life mean?
Right. So, at the very, very specific classic sense, pro life means that you support and defend human life from the moment of conception until natural death.
And I mean, you spoke a little bit already on your role in the pro-life movement, but if you want to explain more about what your role was in the pro-life movement.
Very good. So, as an organizer, which is really what my role is the idea is to provide those centers in places where, and it includes a lot around a lot of college campuses, where women are at risk for abortion. So the idea then is to be able to give her all the information she needs to make an informed decision about her pregnancy. It's surprising to see how many women really don't understand what's happening to their bodies, and specifically about gestation, what a baby goes through as they're being developed in the womb.
Mm.
And then on the other side is making sure she knows all her resources. Where can she get funding, support? Where she can get material goods? Where can she get education and training, not only about her pregnancy, but about raising a child? And then, of course, there's another option, and that is adoption. So all that information is something we do through our pregnancy resource centers to help women make that informed choice.
That's awesome. What got you into the pregnancy resource center movement? Like, how did you start?
Right. So I had a consulting group, which was helping nonprofits develop their leadership. And I was speaking on leadership up in Lexington one time, and a pro-life OBGYN from my home city of Fall River came up to me afterwards and asked me if I can actually do a leadership project. So I met with him in his office. He gave me a book that talked about answering the call. That was the name of the title of the book. And I read that in his office. It was a short book. And he asked me to open up a pregnancy resource center in Fall River. And so that's where I got involved at first.
Okay, that's awesome. In 1973, the Supreme Court legalized abortion. What do you remember about the days before that decision?
Right. So I was in high school.
Yeah.
I graduated a couple of years after Roe Wade. And for us as young people, some of us were dealing with abortion. It wasn't something that was spoken of. In fact, the term having, that's an abortion was a negative thing. If there was a disastrous thing, we'd call it an abortion. It was very, very bad use of the term. But I do know people who've had them. And so I think for those of us who really didn't understand what was going on, I think there was a lot of relief knowing that first, boys and men could have as much sex as they want and not have the ramifications that come with getting a woman pregnant. And then girls and women had an easy out to not be in the pregnancy any longer. And none of us realized the terrible things that followed.
All right. What arguments did the pro-abortion, we'll say pro-abortion group, have to defend abortion beyond a woman's choice?
Right. Now, I want to be fair too. Okay.
Yeah.
I will refer to them as pro choice.
Okay.
Privately, there is a segment of it that are pro abortion because there's a lot of money and power in the abortion movement. That's the reason why you'll see certain politicians have to be one or the other, pro life or pro choice, or else they will not be able to run for office because of the way the country is divided. Um, So the original arguments were that you would hear is that it's a woman's choice. It's up to her. It's her body.
Yeah.
Another one is that all right, it's simply a glob of cells. It's not even a human being. That's very important.
Yeah.
And then they'll also talk about, well, the woman can't afford it. So how can we make her, or as one president once said, punish her with the baby?
Yeah. Um, what changed? What changed that opened? Okay. What changed opened more and more eyes to the truth of abortion, that a human life was being destroyed? Like, how did
That's a
everyone get to see?
great question. Ultrasound. All right. So the whole concept of medical technology advanced so much that we got to see the baby in the womb earlier and earlier and earlier in gestation. And then conversations started coming out about, well, when does the heartbeat begin? And then there were wonderful discussions about, well, are we talking about humankind here, or just talking about that blob of cells or that blob of blood or something like that too?
Yeah.
More and more Americans began to realize, oh my goodness, that's a baby.
Yeah.
There's his head, there's his arms, legs, and on and on. And then, of course, very early on in a pregnancy, the heart starts beating, and so you can hear that on the monitor. And so moms got to hear this. I want to say that the folks who were involved with the abortion movement, they purposely would not let the mother see or hear the ultrasound. Whereas we in the pregnancy resource movement, we provide free ultrasounds and we make sure the mom knows. Now, we get criticized for that, for manipulating the woman, but we argue that no, she is a fully intelligent, capable of making her own decisions person.
Yeah.
Give her all the information she needs, including the things that may sway her towards life. And we pursue that, and that's one of the big things we do in our movement.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that the mother would want to hear the heartbeat. There's
You
no
would
mother
think,
that's gonna walk in and be like, "I don't want to hear it."
well,
Well.
let me point out something on that regard. Okay, if a woman, and again, you're talking mostly to college students.
Yeah.
This is one of the most common arguments. She's in school, she's trying to get her degree. There's enough going on with that, and all of a sudden now she's pregnant. What does she do? Well, to be honest, there was a time, all right, where she would have to leave school. It was frowned upon. There was a certain element there in the society that didn't like it. But
Yeah.
as that changed, it became almost entirely economical. How could she do classes, pay for her school? Many times she's paying her own tuition. How does she do that? And so a lot of women would come, even to our facilities, looking for an abortion simply because they wanted to get out of the situation. Now, can you really blame her for that?
No. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we understand that. So you can see that how we care for her. And so one of the things that we said, listen, you understand. There are ramifications to this. When if you should you end this pregnancy, a human life is involved. This is something too, by the way, you will regret the rest of your life simply because of the fact you'll look back and you'll say, and this is the number one thing women tell us who are suffering from their abortions. They'll say this. Now, think about the irony to this statement.
Yeah.
I had no choice. They're pro choice.
Yeah.
If anything, they're the ones that should have the choices.
Yeah.
They come to us to find out what their choices really are.
Yeah. That's a good point. Um. So next question. Why are so many people? Why so many people? I can't make this right. Why are so many people so adamant about keeping abortion legal? And it's pretty much like you said. It's more about pro-choice, but
And let's look at it from the honest, blunt perspective. Overwhelmingly, when I'm having this conversation with a pro-choice person, they really care about the woman. They really feel as though they're her advocate. Okay, they're forgetting so much. They're forgetting the baby. Obviously, they have to almost. I hate to say it this way. It's the same thing that we did to the Africans we brought over here as slaves. We said they were some human. They just weren't fully human. Therefore we could enslave them. By the way, that's all over the world.
yeah,
People enslaved others. All right. Then I have to say this too. This is what the Nazis did to the Jews. They were subhuman, so therefore they could be exterminated. I'm
yeah,
sorry, we
yeah,
lose our humanity. So pro-choicers have to. They have to suspend a certain element of their humanity,
yeah,
and then also, there's a guy involved.
yeah,
There are fathers. All right. When these men find out, many of these men find out they want their child.
yeah,
They're willing to sacrifice greatly. Men are hardwired to provide and protect for their family. So this is devastating to men. So when we talk with pro-choicers, we try to get them to get involved with the big picture,
Yeah.
not simply the pregnant woman.
Okay. So politicians like, Governor Healy and Senator Warren claim pregnancy resource centers torture women. And what is your answer to that charge?
And I wrote letters to both of them, and I invited both of them to come into our pregnancy resource centers and let them see what we actually do. And I never got a response. And I mean, usually you at least get a form letter. We
Yeah.
thank you very much for your. It's because they have no argument. Anytime we actually present them with the truth, let them meet our clients. Again, one of the criticisms that the governor and the senator and folks like them will argue against this, like I said before, uh, no, you don't. You only care for the baby up until they're born, then you dump them. I was just in a pregnancy resource center up in New Hampshire. I got to meet some of the women who 2 years later are still getting resources from our pregnancy resource center, mostly mentoring,
Yeah.
mostly grandmothering, helping her with the decisions she's making beyond raising her child.
Oh,
So this is what
yeah.
we say to them: please stop demonizing us. Come and tell the truth, but there's they get lots of money for being pro-choice. They get lots of political power
That's
because people
dangerous.
will vote. I'll tell you right now, there are plenty of voters out there who will never vote for a candidate who is not pro-choice.
Oh, that's an interesting point. um, what would you encourage young people to do to avoid having to consider an abortion?
Right. Well, so this is a big part of our movement. Also, is we advocate that you be reasonable with your sexuality. This is another problem. Our society has become hypersexualized. I think the data is showing us something different today. That young people are not getting into sexual relationships so quickly. The hookup culture.
Yeah.
So the first thing we do is we try to educate folks on the hookup culture. No, not everybody's having sex.
Yeah.
Uh, now, and frankly speaking, uh, if you want to stay out of poverty, okay, there's just three things you got to do. All right, graduate high school, get a job and keep the job, and do not engage in sex and begin having children until after you're engaged in a lifelong monogamous relationship that many of us call marriage.
Yeah.
You have a 90% chance of not living in poverty. So that's where we start. It's in a woman's best interest not to have sex until after she's found her true love. And they're out there. Yeah, we have just about as many men on the planet as we have women. All right, I don't think that's an accident. So,
Yeah.
to deal with that. So, by the way, that message is to men too. All right, true gentlemen will treat a woman as a queen with respect and control their sexual urges. They're real. Obviously they're real.
Yeah.
Sex is a wonderful, beautiful thing. It's best inside of marriage.
Yeah.
So that's where we begin.
Okay. And I just have a couple of questions. I have to do more on the college side of things.
Happy here.
Um, how do you recommend students sort through media and campus narratives, so like when you see stuff on campus, to find what's true about abortion and like basically to find the pregnancy resources, like if there's a college that wants to find resources, where
Very
would they
good.
go looking?
Sure, no problem. Anyways, this is another thing that's really beautiful about your generation versus my generation.
Yeah.
We used to call them crisis pregnancy centers. We don't any longer call
Okay.
them pregnancy resource centers. My generation, it was a crisis. The
Okay.
world war was coming to an end. Parents would kick out their children. They'd lose jobs, all kinds of things. Our society is caught up. You can still work a full-time job and have your baby.
Yeah.
I worked in surgery. I remember one of our anesthesiologists. She got pregnant. She continued to provide anesthesia to our
That's funny.
patients all the way up to the point of her delivery. It was great,
Yeah.
and so the resources are out there that are available to college students. They need to become very aware of that as well. But I would start with this, especially for college students. You're there demanding the truth. That's what college is about. You must learn to think for yourself and demand the truth. Your professors are to present the truth. Now, there's going to be opinion and discussion and disagreements. That's also a part of campus life.
Yeah.
But make a scientific decision. Is it a human or not?
Yeah.
Is the baby a human? Scientifically, absolutely. They're not goats.
No.
All right. They're not Tyrannosaurus Rex. Okay. They're a human being. So if it's a human being, now we get into ethics. Can you ethically come up with a reason for that human being to lose this life? Remember, we talk to women all the time. It's your body, absolutely, but inside your body is a completely different body, different DNA, all kinds of different issues here.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'd say to college students, you're committed to the truth, learning the truth, challenging, right, what you're being taught. Next, pregnancy resource centers are easily found through computer searches. You could
Okay.
just type in pregnancy resource center for your area, and then other, different things will come up. Feel free to call them. Okay, they're not going to try to talk you out of your abortion. What they're going to do is they're going to say, "Okay, great. Here are all your options." The, when you go into a pregnancy resource center, the first thing they do is after they discuss and get your story, they give you a lab quality pregnancy test. Are you really pregnant? If the answer is yes, then we're going to set you up with by the way, this is all free
Yeah.
for the ultrasound. If the answer is no, the conversation will be, what got you here? All right, can we figure out a way that you don't get pregnant until you're ready to be pregnant? The ultrasound then will tell you about your gestation. Is it a viable pregnancy? All right, we want to make sure you don't go and have an abortion on a child that's not going to survive anyways. All right, now if you are with a viable pregnancy, then like I said before, all the other resources kick in. College students should demand to know all the truth.
Yeah. Um, sorry. Um, sorry, I'm just trying to think which ones would be best for college students. All right. Um, what's the most thoughtful way for a student to engage in debates without just repeating talking points from the other side? So, what would be the best way to, I guess, find the truth? What would be the best questions to ask when you're trying to search for it?
Well, again, if you're having a conversation with somebody who is pro-choice, all right, you begin by asking, okay, what makes you pro-choice? Find out where they're coming from. What's their initial starting point? Most of the time, like I said before, I really am an advocate for women's rights. Great, super. So am I. Well, wait a minute, but you don't want abortion? Yeah, because that's a decision that a woman doesn't want to have to make. So I want to start, as I mentioned before she gets pregnant. Where do you, as a pro-choicer, stand on helping her not get pregnant in the first place? Oh, that's tough because they don't want to start telling people how to live their lives.
Yeah.
Say, well, we do that all the time anyways. Well, what do you mean by that? I tell people to drive slow when they're on the highway. All right. Am I telling them how to live their lives? Although I'm never interested in jumping out of a perfectly good aircraft, okay,
Yeah.
up in the air. But my father jumped out of them with the 82nd Airborne in World War II. Right, and I've told him, say, you're nuts. My father-in-law got into boats built to sink all the time. They
That's
were
so
called
funny.
submarines. We always talk to people about living the healthiest life and avoiding danger. So where do you, as a pro-choicer, talk about that? All right, but then when they're pregnant, okay, are you in favor of the woman hearing that heartbeat?
Yeah.
Are you in favor of letting them see their ultrasound? Are you in favor of finding out all of their resources so they could choose? They have two options. They can parent or they can place for adoption, which is very near and dear to my heart, and that all three of my children are adopted.
That's awesome. Um, sorry. Let me think. How should a young person wrestle with conflicting values? For example, believing in you just kind of talked about this, but believing in both women's rights and protecting our life. I say, what's the what's the best way to critically think through that tension? You kind of covered that, for the most part.
Right.
Is there anything you would add to that question for answering?
Only ask themselves this simple question.
Sorry.
No, no, it's great. Um, we want to identify with her in that moment. What would you do if it was you? For me, I've been asked this question before. What if it was my daughter? And of course, the one that the pro-choicers love to talk about, although it's practically very rare in society, rape and incest.
Yeah.
All right, very
Those are
good.
tough topics because people are just like,
Very good.
hey, they don't want the woman to suffer, but
Right,
at the same time, like there's plenty of women out there that we've seen, I mean, on social media that have had their children even despite the rapes or, that they've gone through, and they end up being so happy that they had their baby, but it might not be hard. It might be hard for a student who might have just had this might have just happened to and then not know how they should, handle it.
right. The joy of motherhood. All right. I'm a guy. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm married to a mother. All right. My two daughters are both mothers. I've known tons of mothers, and I've known tons of mothers who have had babies as a result of an unplanned pregnancy, and I've met women who have been raped and yet still have their children. None of them regret having their children. I know many, many women, because it's part of what we do in the pregnancy resource centers. We do something called restoration. Many, many women who have had abortions, who regret their abortions, who suffer from their abortions, who to this day still pray for forgiveness for that. We have methodologies to help her, to be able to. Uh, they never overcome it. They never overcome it, and as a result, they suffer in that regard. But we help them understand that it's forgivable. They need to forgive themselves
Yeah.
and understand. And I do say this: you were misled. All right, you were lied to about that, and so please forgive those who lied to you, and so that you can be healthy again. But like I
Yeah.
said, I know many, many, many women who regret their abortions. I've never met a woman who regretted having their baby, even if they placed it for adoption.
Yeah. So off the cuff kind of question.
Sure.
If for my Christian audience who are watching, is there any advice that you give to them, like if they're handling this kind of thing and they're in the church, and what would you say to them if
Dealing with the argument itself.
that, or if they're pregnant,
Hmm.
out of marriage and they're, whether they're raped or just, a relationship that they're in,
Right.
how, how do they navigate, like if the Christian church is accepting of the
Oh,
idea, or,
okay. Right.
depending on
Right.
either way they go.
Again, just like the society has evolved, right? The church has evolved. All right, the stigma is gone.
Yeah.
I've been in so many churches because I need to go to the churches, ask them for their help.
Yeah.
So many. No, there. I'm sure somebody in your audience will have a story. All right, there'll be an anecdotal out there. Overwhelmingly, the church rejoices.
Yeah.
Again, real quick story. So that pro-life OBGYN that got me in the movement had a Christian couple who their baby was anencephalic, and it was the brain was outside their skull, and they were not going to survive. And of course, the physicians appropriately said, "We can end this pregnancy right now, so that it's the child's not going to survive."
Yeah.
But that meant they would have had an abortion, and that they had determined the child would die, not God. So the OBGYN that I worked with told this couple, no, do not abort the child. I can take care of you. I can take care of your child. All right. You won't be in pain. You won't be suffering, neither will the child. What we'll do is we'll go ahead. They'll have you come to term. When the time comes, I will remove the baby from you. It's not your decision to end its life. But when it's deceased, that's what happens. And when it's deceased, I'll remove the remains, and then we'll have a celebration of life.
Yeah.
And it was my church that I attended that did it, and I went to that service, and it was joyous. It filled that mom and dad. They got Mother and Father Day cards,
Yeah.
and they were told that you are a mom and a dad.
Yeah.
Your child is in heaven, so you
That's
can
awesome.
see
Yeah.
them when you get there. So we named the child. There's a gravestone. All right, they can go and visit their child. Unfortunately, praise the God, praise the Lord. Later on, they had other children who survived and lived and are alive today.
That's awesome.
It is.
Is there anything else that you'd want to say to the audience before we wrap up the interview?
Um, do good in school. All
Yeah.
right. Very, very grateful that you guys are getting your degrees. Our society needs you, and but always seek the total truth. Be, as you mentioned before, be critical thinkers. Even of me,
Yeah.
challenge me, make me come up with the proof. If you see me on Facebook, make me provide you with the evidence and the proof necessary to show you that that's a human being worthy of life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you feel free, if anyone's watching and they have questions or they're going through something and they need resources, feel free to reach out to me and I can reach out to him. Either way, we can make it happen. And I thank you guys for joining us on this interview. Bye guys. Thank you.